is up, everyone? Welcome to Kinetic Konnections here on Kinetic Training. I'm Coach Dan Palacios, and today we have a really special guest. Super cool guy. You might know him from Call of Duty, Ronin Tactics. This is Tu Lam of Ronin Tactics. He's a Green Beret. He now is traveling the country teaching all of our special forces, all of our highest end military and tactical athletes. I have a special place in my heart for military and tactical athletes because I train the police departments out here, but Tu does it at a completely different level. I've had the opportunity to exchange some products with Tu, like the breath belt and the inertia wave and the aqua training bag. So we'll see some more stuff coming from him in that direction as far as integrating tactical athlete training with metabolic and strength conditioning work. But Tu, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give us the rundown on what it is you've been up to just over the last few months, and then we'll get right into it.
Hey guys, Tu Lam or Team Ronin. Hey Dan, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a great topic today. I'm really interested in talking about fitness. Team Ronin, I travel around the United States. I teach along with my wife, major law enforcement, military. Along with that, we're in the Hollywood world where we film with the History Channel, and we do the Call of Duty character Ronin. Along with that, I take a lot of my prior military experience within special operations, and I'm able to entrepreneur a company called Ronin, where we supply a lot of the tactical industry with equipment that I found that didn't work for us overseas, and I help develop and engineer new equipment that works. And it's really an awesome thing to see, like the modern day special operations guys using our gear.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can personally vouch for the quality of that, having used the gun belt, and certainly I love wearing your other gear, like your hat and your shirt. I got your sunglasses on the way. That's from Etta Frames. I'm excited to have those come in. That certainly makes me look tactical. But certainly I bow to you in the realm of tactical athlete specific applications. And knowing more about what it's actually like to apply this stuff to the battlefield. I'm a strength conditioning coach. That's not my world. I'm not out here going around and taking down bad guys around the world. So, for you, what has that transition been like to go from the tactical world and this sort of secret realm that nobody really knows about, and there's certainly certain things you can't tell us about, that's for sure, and then transitioning to the spotlight and the world of social media and kind of letting people get a glimpse of what that's like?
Well, let's talk about the core, right? The seed of the mindset. Okay. So, born in Vietnam, we escaped war, escaped genocide. We were fortunate enough to make it to the United States, where 1,000 people have died. So I was kind of born with that hard mindset initially. Didn't know it at a young age, but I was definitely different in the way I look at things. I was adopted at 8 years old to American Special Forces Green Beret. He was my stepfather. So why is this important? Because at 8 years old, I was indoctrinated into a military life. I mean, at 5 o'clock in the morning, we would get up, we'll raise the American flag, we'll put our hands over our heart, and then we go into physical training for an hour prior to eating breakfast and going to school. And that was a normal duty day. On the weekends, we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, we put our hands over our heart, and we continue physical training, a little longer sessions on the weekends. So I was embedded with that discipline pretty early on. What I think unique is that just because you're raised with that discipline doesn't mean that you're going to obtain that discipline within your life, right? Because you have to implement this discipline daily. Case in point is my brother. He was raised the same way I was, 5 o'clock in the morning, hard work, and he became a doctor, and he became truly a professional, but physical fitness is definitely not one of his things, So when you talk about physical fitness, it's looking at physical fitness as almost every evolution of your life. When I was young, in my teenage years, I had to veer my physical fitness towards what my goal was going to be. And at that time was going to be, in the special forces. I knew I had my sets aimed at the special forces, and I was able to accomplish other things prior to going to special forces, like Ranger School, amphibious reconnaissance school, and all physically demanding. All of it's physically demanding. But what I find was looking back, because as you get more mature over the years, you understand more physical fitness. Looking back, I was not put together. That means that I was just going off of pure mindset.
Mm,
You know, it was, I didn't train up for it because
right.
you don't, at that level, at 18 years old, you don't understand special operations at that level. You know what I mean? And back then it was very hush hush. It wasn't put out there as it is today on social media. You know, so a lot of the intelligence that I had coming in to the military was you need to be strong mind. You have to have a strong mind.
Well, and
And
certainly that's something you pulled from your stepfather, right? I mean, if he was already part of that world, and that was something that was imbued into you, at least to some extent, you had to make that intentional decision to go, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to build on it, not just rest on my laurels. I'm going to continue to delve into this world and create something more than what I was handed. I'm going to build upon that foundation now.
absolutely, you know, and I could honestly tell you, looking back then, I didn't have that mindset at 18. You
Yeah.
know, I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted in life, but man, I wasn't mature enough to kind of break it down like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I was raised with this discipline. You know, I have it within me, because you always have your doubts, right? Going
Right.
through. But the physical training back in the military, it was long movements. It was a lot of endurance-based training, you know, especially when I was trying out for Ranger School. You know, it was a lot of long movements, a lot of uh, you have to operate at a depleted state in special operations. And when I say that is you're starving, you're hungry, you're sleepy, you're tired, you're miserable, and you operate at the top tier level in these conditions. And that's what we look for, you know?
Right.
So how do you train for that? Right?
Certainly,
Because people
certainly,
always,
well, in our world, as specifically strength conditioning, as much as we would love to be able to apply the level of simulated stress, and we talk about that a lot when we're doing various posts for tactical athlete style training. It's going to be your traditional movement patterns that are usually tested in something like any kind of boot camp situation or academy type situation. It's going to be push-ups, pull-ups, and various types of functional movements, either obstacle coursing, running of some variation. But how can you possibly replicate what it's like to be on a battlefield and make decisions that will not only impact your life, but the lives of the guys around you or guys or girls on your team? What does that look like to make that transition from, okay, yes, I'm physically prepared here, but now I need to take that and translate it over to being mentally prepared to do the job at hand when the time comes. I mean, I don't know that you can teach that.
yeah, it's just, and even guys that have gone through training, gone through intensive training, even special forces, special operations. I see some in the Navy. I mean, guys do have mental breakdowns, overseas. It's a very hard environment, not just physically, but mentally. Right. So when we talk about the physical aspects of training within special operations, it breaks down to intelligence. It's understanding your operational environment. So let's just say I have to go to the Middle East to a higher elevation of operation. That means that the air standard up there. So how do you train your body? So you have to simulate that environment back at home. You have to
Yeah.
simulate your ability to react and really physically exert yourself in those environments. And the only way to do it is to deplete your body of oxygen, right? To go to a higher elevation and train at that elevation at the intensity that you need to perform in a combat simulated scenario, right? So that's what we did in special operation. It was being able to mimic the operational environment and mimic what we're actually going to do on the ground. And be able to carry that gear, that equipment, that weapon system. Because Dan, if you're not physically fit and you go into a high intensity workout, I mean, you're going to be depleted. Your vision's going to go away because your oxygen's going to go away. Your muscle is not going to get the oxygen and blood it needs to perform at that higher level. So you have to train like that in peaceful environment, right? Before
Right.
you go over to war, and then when war hits, well, that's the mental aspect of it, right? That's where we train so heavily on assessment and selection on a strong mind, because that's what we're looking for. We can train anybody in physical fitness, right? But we can't train somebody on a strong mind.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest aspects that we try to replicate in and simulated stress style training or workout is the same types of intensities of movement and periods of time allotted between reps, between sets, between exercises, the types of exercises, but to include something along the lines of cognitive training, right? Visual stimulus and being able to actually identify targets, being able to identify situations or changes in the environment, all types of things that need to be, I think, built into training more often. And I just don't see that much of it going on in the more general sense of training. So for you, do you feel like the training that you did in a general sense for special operations really was reflective of what you do in the battlefield? Because I tend to think, from my assessment, when I take a look at a lot of the testing that's done for high-level military operators, I feel that the exercises and a lot of the allotted time frames are not necessarily always reflective of what it is you're actually doing during an actual situation and an actual contact with an enemy combatant, right? What is that translation of 15-20 mile ruck into a battlefield situation actually look like for you guys?
And that's the thing, is you can't really train on that, right?
Right.
When I say that, it's even the physiology behind some of our infiltration into certain countries. That means we can go up to 24,000 feet. We have oxygen tanks. We're jumping out with, I don't know, 150 pounds of gear on us and weapons, free falling to the ground. So your adrenaline is jacked, right? By the time you hit the ground, you're dealing with adrenaline. You're dealing with exhaustion, because you're going from 30 degrees below zero at 24,000 feet to maybe 90 degrees tropical environment, that extreme to the next extreme. Some of our movements, I mean, gosh, I've done movements that are 48 hours. That means through jungle environments, Some of our infiltrations are water infiltrations. So you have to understand, like, that level of fitness can be trained at a certain level in a peacetime, but that's where that strong mind comes in. You know what I mean? So by the time let's just say we're moving through a jungle for 48 hours, man, you're not eating, right?
Yeah.
You're not eating unless you're carrying all that food on.
Those MREs certainly aren't the first thing you want to turn to.
Or the worst, but we don't even carry in a full pack of MREs. All I do, we call it field strip to MREs, because, man, we have to carry in communications. We have to carry in weapons. We have to carry in ammunition, right?
Stuff that's going to keep you alive.
It's stuff that keeps us alive on the battlefield. So food is kind of neglected.
Who needs food?
And that's what I was saying, is like, you have to work at such a depleted state at a high performance level. And then by the time you hit the, we call it the X, the target, right, the enemy, where you have to perform, right?
You're already tired going into it.
Yeah, but you have to perform with precision, right? Because, a lot of times there are innocents around. There are a lot of times there are non-combatants in that area, so you make life and death decisions at such a depleted state.
Yeah.
There's books on combat where guys lose vision because they forget to breathe. Right? Now, people are like, well, how does that happen? But I want you to think about how many of your clients forget to breathe when you put them through high intensity workouts.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'd like to believe that the central nervous system and the relationship with the diaphragm, which entirely controls your breathing response, you cannot be separated from your fight or flight state, right? Sympathetic dominant state that most people are used to functioning in a very let's not say comfortable way, but the average person who sits at a desk all day may or may not realize that they're in that state. Now, where you guys are the complete and total opposite end of the spectrum on that, where you're in a fight or flight state, that your training has to be reflective of that, and that you have to be able to manage that in order to be able to make the necessary decisions when the time comes. 48 hours of tromping through a jungle to get to the X and do the job, as opposed to the person who doesn't realize that their boss just stressed them out and now they're in fight or flight mode. For you, what has been a transitional training protocol or some tools that you've used in your own training to not only be able to create that stress response, but then also replicate it for what you do in the actual battlefield? What are some key anchors and skills you've developed in order to manage that fight or flight mode and manage that stressed out state so that you can make those decisions when the time comes?
I can tell you in the Special Forces, a lot of our training is more complex than the actual operation. So our missions, when I say missions, our training simulated missions, more guys die on the simulated training missions than actually operations. That's how far we push it. We do shoot 1 meter off each other at a very fast rate in a kill house, in a shoot house.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we train at that speed and that intensity almost at an everyday basis. So in time, that higher level of intensity, that adrenaline becomes your normal. You know what I mean? And I want to say that's a twofold thing, right? That's a double-edged blade, because, when you train to that higher level of intensity, that becomes your normal, right? When you get out, what is your normal?
What is the new normal? That is a good question, isn't it?
What is the new normal? Because everything becomes boring.
Yeah. And you're so used to that adrenaline exposure.
And that's why I think a lot of special operations guys, when they get out, they have problems, and they chase that
high. And that is what it is.
So, it is a high.
For you, what has made you feel successful in that mental realm and that spiritual realm? What anchors have you had to get you past that, or at least help to manage it enough so that you can kind of imbue that on other special operators, or even general law enforcement, tactical athletes, and people who are just in the emergency response field? I mean, there's traumas of all kinds that come from those high intensity situations, whether you're firing a firearm or saving a life. What does that look like for you to manage that? And what kind of information can you give to the audience and to those who you work with to be able to say, here's where you're at right now, and here's some steps you can take, whether it's breathing, whether it's visualizations, and or physical training, right? What has made you successful in that realm?
Well, you have to understand, for me, I've been in 23 years. And if I don't think that the military mold me into what they needed to mold me into to be this multi-purpose tool on the battlefield, then I'm wrong. So that's with any first responder, that's with any military and law enforcement, is you have a certain job, and you see this job is, you see the worst in humanity, right? They don't put you in, safe places. So you have to develop this very strong mindset when you're active duty. So when you get out, you have this strong mindset, right? And you have this level of higher training where you're chasing this normal, which is totally crazy for the normal person, right? But you're chasing this level high adrenaline. And I could tell you, Dan, it was hard. It was very hard when I got out, and I faced my dark times, and I faced, the barriers and the struggles and the harsh, just like any other veteran. But the one thing that I had on my side was two energies. I had two energies. The energy at 8 years old, when I was introduced to the martial arts. The martial arts is more than just movements, right? It's more than just kicking ass, right?
Right, of course.
It's a mindset. It's a way of living. You can take a combat mindset and put it right into teachings of life. When I say that is, in combat, you have to survive, right? And you're going to do what is necessary every single day to survive. Well, in civilian life, if you want to be happy, you're going to do everything within your powers within each moment of every day to better yourself. So in the martial arts, it talks about a journey of 1,000 miles began with a single step, allows you a philosophy dating back to 500 BC. But let me tell you why is this important. And you need to absorb this in any one of if you guys are out there, first responders, even if you're not first responders and you guys face, your traumas in the past, is journey of 1,000 miles began with a single step. And if you don't like who you are, it just requires that first step. You just have to change it, right? So when I got out, I realized that, I seen the worst in the world. And that energy was embedded into my subconscious. Like it, not, it doesn't matter. I felt the anxieties every single morning. I felt the loneliness. I felt I felt it, okay? And I realized that the mind, you will only live the way that you see the world. Right? So how many mornings have you got up and you're like, man, this is a great morning. I'm going to kick ass today. And your workout is just amazing. Your day becomes more productive. And how many days have you got up and you're like, I really don't want to get out of bed today. I really don't want to work out. Oh, I'm just going to quit on myself today. And you're going to feel it during that day. And you repeatedly making that same mistake every single day. Well, that's called your life. That's called your habits. So I realized that, after my time in war, first I needed to work on myself again. Dan, when I was in war, in war, it's a very hateful place. It's a negative energy, it's dark space. And if you're going to walk through that darkness, then you're going to have to let go of certain energies that are important to you. Like for me, kindness. And when I got out, I realized that I lost being kind to people. I was always compassionate because that's what a warrior is, but kindness, because you have to be able to mentally block out the hate in this world, right? So I worked on that every single day. And, I post on my stories and I post on Instagram because I want to help people. And what I found out was, because I study philosophers and I study doctors and motivations, you name it, right? I listened to it all when I got out. And what I realized is that if you truly want to find happiness, it's just like you working out. You got to work out every day, right? If you want to be fit. Well, if you want to be happy, you have to implement a strategy every single day. So I found a method that worked for me. Now, I would tell you, it took me 5 years. And people are like, why that long? It shouldn't take that long. I've seen the worst in the world.
How long have you been out of active duty, and at what point did you begin that transitional process of taking that first step, right? And at what point did you realize after getting out that you needed to really take that first step? What was that journey like, time frame wise?
When I first got out, the first thing I realized, my wife was working up in Denver, Colorado, and so it's a 45-minute drive, and she was this big time business manager, accountant. I mean, she has a master's degree in business and accounting, so she's a big deal, in her world. And for me, man, I slept all day in a dark room. You have to understand, when I got out, I served in the best units, and I fought those wars. And I tell you, when I got out, the first thing I felt was no purpose. But the thing is, a lot of people always ask me, well, how do you find purpose to? How do you find your purpose? Well, you don't find purpose. Purpose finds you first. And you don't just fix your eyes on a purpose in the future. That doesn't work like that. See, what I found works with me was I had to forget about the past and I have to forget about the future. And I had to work on myself within the moments. So I basically dissected my life within the moments. So each morning I realized that, I had my subconscious mind was, it couldn't get over certain images of the past, certain smells, right? And it gave me anxieties, every day. And it kind of plays out in the background, when people are like, well, what's that mean? If you ever heard a song in the background and it just plays over and over and over and you're so annoyed, but you can hear it. Well, that's the same thing with the subconscious, right? Every morning, subconsciously, you're releasing certain chemicals. If you're thinking about negative stuff, well, you're releasing these endorphins from your brain into your body. That's why when you think about something that affects you in the past, right, you could feel it in your body. Like you'll start having anxieties. Well, do that enough. Keep on doing that every single day. And what happens is it becomes a habit.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the nature of the trauma trigger cycle, right? Is not only the interaction or the event that you couldn't control, that you happen to be around for any number of reasons, that certainly impacted and embedded itself into your subconscious, and how that begins to actually impact your physiology, and it becomes a habitual response to just about any kind of stressor, which is what I love about the training world. Is, for me, it's essentially like programming a computer to some extent. As odd as that can sound, it sounds like really what we're doing is taking the opportunity to take this computer where it currently is and whatever programs it's currently running, and manipulate the variables in such a way that this system begins to change and redirect the way it calculates and responds to all the different data that's coming in, right? And that's really all working out really is from a physical perspective. And that's why I really love it from the perspective of changing habits and having an actionable way of changing your mind from the outside in, right? Is if I take this physical step of being in this place and executing this workout, and I repeat that enough times, those physiological changes do occur. And as you continue to get better at it, as you continue to build success early and often, you remove yourself from the negativity of those failures. And even though you will have many, many failures along the way, you continue to press into the opportunity. Here's another success. Here's another success. Here's another one and another one. You're building until you've had enough of those successes that your bench press is higher, or it's a smoother rep every time, right? Those are those little steps that take you from one success to the next, and allow you to really deal with those failures in the gym, and I think in many ways in life. And that's why I think the physical aspects of training are in a lot of ways undervalued in regards to how it impacts your mind and the level of confidence it builds in training. So specifically for you, what have been some aspects of your physical training that you feel made a huge impact on your mental health when you were making that transition from that really dark place to pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, or God pulling you out of it one way or the other, to get to a place where you felt not only physically well, but also mentally well?
Like the mind's connected to the body. And when I felt depression, the hardest thing for me to do, Dan, was to get out of bed.
Right.
Like, and I remember I shared this story with a lot of my friends and my students. From my home, it takes me 15 minutes to drive to the gym. And I no matter how I felt that day, no matter how depressed I was or how sorry I felt for myself, I would get in the car and I would drive to that gym 15 minutes. And I would walk into the gym, and it's up to me if I decide to work out or not. But we're going to go to the gym no matter what. And as well as I do, the hardest part about going to the gym is just getting there, right? Because once you get there, you're going to work out, okay? But man, it hurt, and it was hard. And you know what's unique about this story is that, you know, I've been physically fit all my life. I told you I was at 8 years old, I was indoctrinated into this life. So it was part of my discipline. But how can something that I love become so hard? And what I realized was my mind was quitting on me, and I could feel it through my body. So by physically forcing my body, right, and changing the location, I found that it changes your mind, because it don't matter what your mind thinks. You know, when I was in the special forces, there was plenty of times I didn't want to go out in sub 30-degree below zero weather and perform reconnaissance on maybe a target, right? I didn't want to do that. It doesn't matter what I want.
Got to do it. Job to
Right?
be done.
So my mission in this next evolution, when I got out, was, you know, I just wanted to be my best self, you know, and it begins with me. So physical training was, I would say, a major part of it, because the mind's connected to the body, the body's connected to the mind, right? So I forced myself for a year. That's how long.
Wow.
I was depressed for 4 years. You know, what's unique about this whole story is that, you know, people, they see me on the History Channel and they're like, wow, this guy's really successful. But they didn't understand, when I was rising, I was going through the worst state of depression of my life.
Wow. Yeah, no, and that's yeah, that's I think a common story that goes extremely untold, which is why it's so important that guys like you step out into the limelight and tell that story, and help people realize that, you know, even though you're achieving, and you have all this success going on the outward appearance, certainly you're struggling and dealing with all the turmoil internally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and for those people who are out there who do feel alone and have been incredibly impacted by the traumas they've experienced, it's important for them to realize that's a struggle that so many people have. They're not alone in that, and there are a lot of tools available to actually tackle that in a lot of ways. And maybe you won't always overcome it, but certainly you'll find better ways to manage it through, you know, guys like you who are telling your story, and at least can give some insight as to how you went about that for yourself, and maybe give them some anchors to drive into and hook up for the next part of the climb, right? Whatever that's going to look like. So for you, at what point you were during that period, it was a year to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and physically just get to the gym and take that first step of 1,000 steps, right? At what point did you start Ronin Tactics and it became part of your life's purpose to build this company that would also become an anchor for other people in their next step of the climb?
My wife was up in Denver, you know, working at her accountant job. And I remember one day my body was aching, right? Because, well, you know, in special operations in the military during the war, it was common practice to give us painkillers, right? And, you know, guys, I have been hurt many times, injured, along with my teammates. When you perform at that level, you're like a professional athlete, right? You're going to get hurt, you're going to get shot, you're going to get blown up, you're going to deal with it. And being at that national level, right, they're going to give you whatever they're going to give you to stay on the battlefield.
You're a multi-million-dollar asset. You got to keep moving.
Yeah, you know, and you know as well as I do, that's a recipe for failure. Opiates, painkillers, all of it, because it's a dependency, right? What works now is not going to work the next following week. And if you up your dosage, then you're going to become an addict. So when I first got out, you know, I had a lot of spine injuries. I had a lot of hip injuries from my time. And I was taking a lot of painkillers at that time. And I had a hard time sleeping. So I would take sleeping meds, you know. So it was like, what do I want to feel for the next hour? I'm going to take a pill, because that's what the military kind of did to us. Not blaming the military. I'm not blaming him at all. I'm just saying that that was the route that I went down, along with a lot of other my teammates. The thing was, I know I needed to change. So I literally dumped it all down the toilet and I quit cold turkey. I don't recommend that to anybody because
That's a rough route to
that is
go.
horrible. Horrible. You know, you have this wall, right, that you kind of keep all your emotions at bay, this chemical wall. And when you take down that chemical wall, you feel the weight of the world.
It just comes crashing down on you.
Yeah.
And would you say that Ronin Tactics was part of that sort of therapeutic transition process?
Well, when my wife was up in Denver, I had a blanket wrapped around me, like a 60-year-old, 70-year-old man, you know, sitting in a dark room. I quit all of my meds, so I was going through withdrawals, you know, and my body was aching, and you know, through this darkness, I remember just walking around the house. Right, it was super dark, right, and somehow the energies guide me down to my office. And I would look through my books because I'm a big history guy, I'm a big reader. And I pulled out this book, and it was the Book of Five Rings. You know, I read the Book of Five Rings the first time when I was 13. And I didn't understand a lick of it, right?
Right.
So for the viewers, what is the Book of Five Rings? It was written by a Ronin back in 1645. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. And Miyamoto was a master swordsman, a warrior, a philosopher, a gardener, Zen master. And I remember opening up the book, Dan, and the passage read that, you know, all your strength, all your love, all your powers, it is found within. Don't look anywhere else. Everything exists within. And you know, at that time, I was looking everywhere else. You know, and the teachings of the martial arts reminded me of the power that God has given us. Right. So it was that moment that I started working on myself. Literally right there at that moment.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I started reading more. I started diving into more intelligence. In my training in the special forces, I started diving into my day. Why am I feeling this way? What am I doing wrong? I would take deep notes, right? And through the process, I started sharing myself with the world, you know, my experiences. And through the teachings of a Ronin is what saved me. So I became a modern Ronin. And I started helping others. I started teaching others. And through this process, I started uh, picking up the way of the blade. When I say that is I picked up my weapon again. And now I'm a warrior in the garden, and I teach law enforcement and military. And I teach the Bushido code, the way of the warrior, you know. And then through the process of that, I became a modern day Ronin. And Ronin tactics, it was developed when I first got out of the military. Through depression, through the darkness, through the hard times, I was able to, with my wife, entrepreneur, a successful company, even though I was feeling depressed. And people are like, how do you do that? Because I concentrate on within the moments. I worked within the moments. I didn't worry about the future or the past, what other had to say about me, or I worried about being my best self within each moment.
Taking that next step. And that's
And
dope.
when I say, you know, being your best self within each moment is, I don't give in to hate. I try to be polite to everyone. If I'm upset, then I look at the world differently. I look at the situation differently with more of a compassionate mind these days. And I found out through that work, right? Because it was work. It was hard work. You know, when people say, you know, what was the ingredient? So I'm going to give your follows the ingredient, because, you know, we talk about all these issues. We don't talk about a solution. So I'm going to give you my solution. It's about, if you don't like who you are, you don't like your past or where you became in life, man, you know what? First, life is a series of mistakes. Life's a series of struggles. And through these mistakes and struggles is where we find our experience. So don't beat yourself up, first off. Second, if you don't like who you are as a human being, well, stop doing the same shit every single day, right?
Certainly.
Okay, I had a guy who was like, oh, you know, I'm overweight, this and that. I don't like who I am. I'm lazy. But yeah, he gets up at 9 o'clock. He eats a shitty breakfast. He goes to work around shitty people. So he has a bad attitude. He doesn't understand why. You have to completely change your day. You have to become a different person. So my day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning because it ties into the discipline that my stepfather taught me. It reminds me of my path in life. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, I start off, I shower, and I do hygiene. People are like, okay, why is that important? Well, for me being in the military, we had to get up early. So I showered in the military just to wake up. But what I found out was throughout my years of doing it was it actually makes me feel better. And in the morning, it's about being your best self, feeling your best energy, right? So showering was a part of it, and then I drink coffee because dude, I'm a big coffee drinker. I love coffee. I drink coffee all around the world, and the thing is, you have to have a reward. And one of my rewards, I drink coffee in the mornings. Okay, I pray to God. And you know, when people, and I'm not going to get into religion, but you have to believe in some kind of higher power. Because, and the reason why is because if you don't, then you will always live for yourself. And when I say yourself is, you'll live for the next addiction, whatever it is.
Could be Netflix, could be opiates.
Anything. It could be sleep. It could be laziness. It could be anything.
Right.
You're going to live for these addictions, and like any addiction, is temporary.
You'll just need a higher dose to get the same feeling, right?
Yeah. So when people are like, I eat like shit, all right, well, that's just a temporary pleasure. Who do you want to be as a human being? So if you believe in a higher power, then you can show gratitude to this higher power and you can live up to expectations of this higher power. And that's a powerful energy, you know? So I draw upon that energy in the mornings, the higher power.
I think you know, when you talk about consistent anchor points and being able to kind of put it on someone else's shoulders to some extent, you know, without getting into all the religious aspects of it, you know, God in general or that higher power in general, I think gives people something to look up to, right, and anchor into that's stronger than themselves, and gives something to shoot for when it comes to being better than whatever I currently am, and being able to take that step that wakes me up at 5 or 6 a.m., get into that shower and experience the stimulus that comes from either the hot or the cold or whatever it is you identify best with that makes you feel your best. Certainly those are things that we've been equipped with, I feel personally, from that higher power to allow us the opportunity to find what is good and positive in the world and things that we can anchor ourselves into to get better on a daily basis. So definitely, I think we can agree on that as an aspect of our daily mental, emotional, and spiritual training. And that just gives you the opportunity to kind of organize your thoughts, right? Taking that time to stop, think, breathe, and collect your mind in a way that you can begin to actually focus it.
I tell you, man, like people, they neglect the power of gratitude. You know, too often I see people going, oh, I'm so tired today. Oh gosh, I hate the mornings. I got to go to work, right? Because they're looking at all the negative aspects of everything. Show gratitude. There's somebody in the hospital right now taking their last breath, wishing that they have another day. Show gratitude. Show gratitude to God. Show gratitude. You know, as the sun rises, I show gratitude.
Verbalize it. Make sure you put those words out there.
Say it. And when you do that, guys, if you do that every single day, well, you're replacing this negative energy with a positive energy, which is gratitude. You do it enough, it becomes the normal.
Well,
right?
they've even done studies. I mean, just on meditation masters in general, people who are physically verbalizing something, and the centers of the brain that light up, and the hormones that are released as a result of a gracious verbalization versus a negative verbalization. I mean, there's study after study scientifically supporting the idea that the body does physiologically respond to what it takes for me to say, I appreciate this versus I hate this. And that alone, that's in my company, Kinetic Training, Live Kinetically. That mindset is about taking any and every tool you have available just within yourself or in the gym to apply it in any way you possibly can to take that next best step, or that first step of 1,000 to move forward. And if it's for you, just waking up and saying thank you to whoever it is you want to say thank you to, then that can be a positive step that if you take it continuously and habitually, that it will begin to change your mindset and ultimately take you towards changing your body or changing your performance or changing your career, whatever that might be. You have to set your sights on it and actually take actionable steps towards doing it. And that, I think, is one of the most important.
Have you ever heard, like, if you're having a bad day, have you ever heard, well, smiling makes you feel better?
Yeah.
Instantly makes you feel better, right? If you just
right.
smile, even if you're in a bad off situation, just smile, it makes you feel better.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was in special operations, when we go out, you don't know you're going to come back. You do not know. Nothing's guaranteed to you. And I tell you, when I face my moments of fear or misery, I smile. And I always say, smile and be brave. Right. And the thing is, how does this work is that your mind is connected to the body. So for all these years, your neurological pathway is saying a smile equates to something good. Right. So when you force your body to smile, well, that's connected to your mind, stimulating your mind, saying, hey, you know what? Everything's good now. Right. So it's kind of like the same thing. Right? It's the same thing. So if I'm able to stimulate gratitude every single morning, I'm just going to be a grateful person. And being a grateful person, I'm going to see the beauty in the world.
And the opportunity, right? It's a lot easier to see opportunity when it's not clouded by hate or ungracious mindset or an ungrateful mindset. And certainly you'll see a lot more opportunity and creativity in the areas of the brain that just are physiologically geared towards doing and creating and being better ultimately.
So I have goals throughout my day, right? So one of my goals is 150 ounces of water, right? So before I even meditate, so I show gratitude, and I drink 50 ounces of water before I even go into a state of meditation. So what's that do, right?
Right.
First, it hydrates me because I'm dehydrated from sleeping. And then, but second, if you drink a lot of water, you're going to stimulate your brain. You're going to feel better. Absolutely. And in the morning, that's what it's all about, right? And it's meeting one of my goals. So I'm winning. I'm building what? That forward movement. I'm building that forward movement throughout my day. I'm winning these little battles.
Habits for success.
5 o'clock in the morning. I took a shower. I feel better. I drank coffee. I pray to God. So I'm
check,
right? So I'm winning the day. So I drink 50 ounces of water, and then I go into what's called prepping my meditation. Prepping my meditation, I change my physiology, so I go into a different breathing pattern. So if you take 5 seconds in, hold your breath for 5 seconds, and 5 seconds back out, you change your breathing pattern. The more oxygen you get to your brain, it changes stimulation in your brain. Absolutely. So basically, I'm waking up my brain. So I go into 9 quick breathing techniques. In and out, in and out, in and out. My last one, 5 seconds in, hold, 5 seconds out. And you're going to see it. You're going to feel it instantly. Your brain's waking up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and for those who are going to be tuning into this, that's absolutely correct. From a scientific standpoint, we know that your body is potentially waking up in a sympathetically dominant state, which is to say you're essentially in fight or flight mode. You're stressed before the day even gets done because you got a billion things to think about, right? So if you start that first day with just a simple breathing drill, right? That's an actionable first step that you can take to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to breathe in for 3 seconds. I'm going to hold it for 3 seconds. I'm going to let it out for 3 seconds. Then I'm going to go take that shower, right? Those are all physiologically manipulated stimuli, right? The hot shower versus the cold shower. Which one makes you feel best? The breathing drill. What makes you feel best? Drinking the water. Those are all things that help to shift your body into that parasympathetic state where you can remain objective, what I call objectifying your pain, and concentrating your body so that you can concentrate your mind, right? And begin to take those actionable steps, physically moving yourself down to the kitchen to drink your coffee or eat your breakfast, whatever that's going to look like, and then begin to take on each of those tasks at hand. But to think that it stops there is a concept that just it doesn't register with me. I'm continually taking steps throughout the day. Someone says something to me, or I get that text that deal fell through, or whatever it looks like. I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to hold that breath. I'm going to control that fight or flight response so that I can respond accordingly. And that's something I think actionably everyone can anchor into. And that's what's so important for everyone, is to figure out, what are your traumas? What are your triggers? What are your responses to those traumas and triggers, right? And how do you begin to make those changes? And
studies have shown just 2 weeks of meditation, right, has changed a person's life, productivity, the mood swings, their clarity, just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys ask me, well, I have a hard time, shutting off my mind. I'm always thinking. I call it the wandering mind, right? The wandering
monkey mind.
The wandering mind is a normal thing because, well, man, how many years have you done without meditation? You think you're just going to understand it right off the bat? You have all this residue from your past, right, buried into your subconscious that you're trying to sever through meditation. I heard voices in my mind didn't stop spinning for 4 years. I meditated since I've been out of the Army, and I've been out since 7 years now. And I meditated every single day ever since I got out of the military. I didn't see results into around my 4.5 year.
And what was the event? What was the event in that meditative practice that kind of made the shift where you essentially went, okay, here's the result?
I didn't see the results. But it doesn't matter if I see the results, if I don't see the results. I had a plan of execution every single morning. So I just went at it.
And you just knew it was positive, and you knew it was making you better?
I didn't even know if it was working.
Right.
Because, I was still feeling negative. I was still depressed. It wasn't until my 4th year, and I'll bring you to the moment. It wasn't my 4th year until I was sitting out in my deck. I was looking at this beautiful, landscape, and I heard birds. People are like, what does that mean? I haven't heard birds in a while because my mind was never there.
You're blocking them out.
My mind was never in the present moment. That's why I never heard the birds. That's why I never see the beauty in the scenery, because when I look at this beautiful mountain, I'm not looking at the mountain. I'm thinking about my past or thinking about the future, right? So meditation, it brings you into that present moment, and man, present moment is beautiful. So when I heard the birds for the first time, I actually wrote it down in my journal. Like a samurai, we keep journals, we write everything. And I remember writing it down. And I remember writing down a story about how I haven't heard birds, since the war.
Wow. Yeah, you've been in such a hyper-focused state of sort of mental and physical tunnel vision for so long that you were blocking out any unnecessary stimulus and auditory stimulus for sure. if it wasn't the sound of an enemy combatant, or it wasn't the sound of, something you actually had to pay attention to, you had to block it out, right? So that's a stimulus adaptation that came essentially from training your mind to be hyper focused on this one given task. Yeah. But if there's anything we can take away from this, is it's listen for the birds.
As a former Green Beret, I've been to 27 countries. And when I say I've been to 27 countries, I lived in these countries. I meditated with monks overseas. I have seen Tibetan monks, Thai monks. I've been to the UK. I see European monks. I have seen the world. And I had a conversation with this Tibetan monk after my time in the Philippines. And we were doing mountain warfare training up in Kashmir, Jammu area, which is a conflict area, but there was Tibetan temples up there. And I sat down with this monk, with my linguist, and I asked the monk, why is the world so unkind? I just seen the war in the Philippines. I lost teammates. And the monk looked at me, and he took me outside into a courtyard area behind a temple. And he sat down into this courtyard, and he drew this big circle into the ground, a circle into the dirt. And he had these two sacks that he laid beside him. And he told my linguist, he drew this circle many years ago. And when he had a negative thought, he would cast a black stone into the circle in the ground. And when he had a positive thought, he would cast a white stone into the ground. And he said that the circle was majority black for the first 3 years. And then he started casting white stones. And I asked the monk, I said, what's this mean, monk? What are you trying to teach me? He said, by simply being aware of your thoughts every single day, right? Then you can change the way that you feel. You just have to be aware.
Take every thought captive.
That's right, right? So during my healing process, through meditation, I started becoming very aware of what my subconscious mind was thinking. I started monitoring every moment of what I was thinking. A lot of it was negative in the beginning, a lot of it. And I would write down my journals. And what's unique about in today's world and social media is that, I share my journal, my daily journals with people through my stories, through my posts and stuff like that. I find it helps me, but it also helps many others around the world. And when I started writing down my journals, I started understanding what I was thinking through the process of helping others, which is higher purpose, right? Through the process of helping others, I found that I was healing.
Absolutely.
Right? So after my breathing patterns, I go into meditation, which is truly just monitoring my breath intake. The monk told me at the end of our conversation, I asked the monk, I said, what is the best form of meditation? And the monk said, the one you do every day. So you guys find it, man. It's not a rocket scientist. It's not like some primitive, it is a primitive practice, but you don't have to be a smart guy to learn how to monitor.
Pretty simple.
Right? It's pretty simple. It's extremely hard to do.
But it's extremely hard to do, right?
Right. And it just takes dedication every single day. And let's just say you're having a hard time shutting off the noise. Well, I want you to change. So let's just say you're sitting there, you're going into your breathing patterns, and you forgot. You're like, oh, I'm starting to think about my day now, right? You could feel that negative energy go in. Stop what you're doing. Open up your eyes, change your physiology, change your breathing patterns. Move your arms, stand up, walk around the room, sit back down. It changes your physiology, and it puts you right back in to that state of no mind, right? So that's the practice. Gratitude in the morning, getting up early in the morning. I get up early in the morning because I have to fit in time for myself in the mornings. And why the morning? The morning is so important because you're framing out your day. If you have a positive mind in the morning, you're going to have a positive day. If you consistently have a positive day, well, you just won the game of life, my friend.
Yep. Building success early and often. Yep. And so much of the habit that comes from just taking one step at a time, right? One more actionable, positive step. Even though there's going to be a lot of negativity coming in externally at all times, when you get habitually into the practice of taking every thought captive and physically doing something about it, whether it's getting up, stopping and breathing, doing a combination of all those things. For me, it's telling clients, get up and stretch, put your arms in a doorway and pull your chest open, lay back against a wall, get your body out of fight or flight mode into that parasympathetic state. Those are all anchors. And we talk about anchors as an important system for moving you from one climbing rung to the next to move you up that ladder. And you're going to continually keep doing that, whether you're a high-level military operator, law enforcement officer, or someone who sits at a desk all day. Those are all important aspects of the human experience that we all go through and have to intentionally go through the process of continually doing that on a daily basis. And I think we're both aligned in the mindset of helping people to do that. So like you said, helping others, really, if you make that your goal and you take whatever your passion happens to be, maybe you don't know your passions, maybe you just kind of know a halfway sense of what you're good at, helping other people to experience improvements in their life through your lens and what it is you do on a daily basis is absolutely critical for understanding other people's experience in relation to yours and what they can do to improve themselves through whatever it is you're teaching. So that being said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know we've been at this for a bit here, but it certainly has been a really positive experience and a lot of great information. So I truly appreciate you taking the time to deliver your message and your information on what your daily habits are, what your steps are to get better for yourself, and more importantly, that higher purpose of helping others do the same through your lens. For me, it's been a tremendous learning experience just being able to hear a lot of bits and pieces of your story. I certainly look out for more and more of what it is you have to teach through the teachings of the Ronin and Bushido. I really look forward to seeing more of what you have to coach here in the next few years too.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So guys, make sure
before we close out, I want to talk about how important what your teaching is. You teach people physical fitness, you teach them a proper form, a proper way, how to exert themselves, And what I find is physical training, guys, it's not just going in and being a gym rat. It's not. You're working yourself, you're bringing yourself to a point of failure and struggle, and you're pushing through that failure and struggle. So that translates to life. As you're dealing with struggles and failures in life, as you're dealing with the externals of the environment or conditions that we're given, you don't like it, doesn't matter. It's just like you in the gym. You're pushing through the struggles, you're pushing through the failures, and through the struggles and failures, it's growth, just like the gym, right? You push your muscles to exhaustion, it's going to grow. You're pushing your life and you're going to fail. It doesn't matter. It's what you do within those moments, right? And
how you bounce back.
You can train your mind like that in the gym every single day.
And that's really the beauty of it, man, is that to me is such a tangible way of translating physical struggle over to mental, emotional, spiritual struggle, and those sort of more cerebral ways of living life that so many people struggle with, especially within the tactical athlete community. So being able to translate your actual gym training or tactical training to what you do in life is absolutely critical, and seeing that success on hitting a target versus not hitting a target. What were the changes that needed to be made? Well, you make those changes. Well, you can do those same things and apply those same principles to what helped you miss that deal or make that deal, or reprogram that software or not reprogram that software. You're going to go back to the drawing board and you're going to have to make it happen one way or another, whether you like it or not. So again, certainly I appreciate you taking the time, brother. This was a really, really beneficial experience for me personally. And like I said, I look forward to learning more of what you have to teach through Ronin Tactics, and everyone who's tuning into this Kinetic Konnections episode, please go over to RoninTactics.com. check out what Coach Two here is doing through Ronin Tactics and all the different gear that he has available. He's got some amazing gear between all of his blades and all of the gun belts if you're in the tactical community and you need practical and really amazing equipment to help you actually do your job properly. He's certainly one of the guys to go see to get some of that equipment. So again, too, I really appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon. All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Bye, guys.
All right. Take care, man.